Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Lately with Lex. I am so excited to be joined by a really good friend of mine who's also kind of my boss now, but we've had him on before. Lee, the owner and CEO, co-founder of XOD.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming
Thanks
back.
for having me.
I know, this is so exciting because I feel like so many, from when you first came on to now, like it's a whole different world.
It's a whole world. We live in a different world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So many things that evolved.
Yeah. So tell me all about the new stuff with XOD, and then we can get into like the nitty gritty of everything.
So, the blessing of owning a startup and a smaller relatively company is that you can be fluid and you can change and you can adapt really fast. Where I see a lot of large companies and corporations, and you can see it with brick and mortar companies that are getting closed because they're not adapting to the world changes or society. You can look at companies like Toys R Us and all these, chains that are closing. Mm-hmm. And I see it also in the aesthetic industry, in the medical industry. Companies are not innovative and cannot keep up with what the new world is and the new market is, are getting stuck behind. So a lot of things have changed at XOD. Fortunately, we love to listen to the market. We love to have our finger on the pulse. And we love to get feedback directly from business owners such as yours and any practitioner that we work with. And we like to give better value and give better proposition. And we even change some of our business model. And it's kind of funny because when I read about startups and I read about how our companies are starting, we had a vision and we thought that the market will want one thing, and it completely changed. And we were able to change with the demand. So a lot of things have changed from our philosophy to our vision to our offerings. So full transparency, our company is called XOD, Aesthetics on Demand, and we were really focused at the beginning on portability.
Yeah.
Because I realized that portable is a need. Having smaller devices can be really helpful for a lot of practices. When we think about the size of devices today, they take too much space in your office. And there's a lot of practitioners that are renting smaller space. So we thought how wonderful to have a small device. Then we looked at successful business owners, and we realized a lot of the successful business owners, they like to collaborate in their community, offer pop-up events, and offer services out of their brick and mortar. So we thought to ourselves, what a great idea if you can take your radio frequency device and travel with it. And then we realized that 98% of our customers that are buying the mobile devices are actually still using it in their brick and mortar, which is great. So that's why we decided to evolve. And one device that we added that is not portable, it's actually one of our best-selling lasers. It's a platform. It's a multifunctional platform. It's called Zaluso. It's handmade in Italy. So it still falls under the categories of how we evaluate technologies. So what is important for us when we evaluate technologies to what to manufacture or distribute here in the US? We want things that are all-inclusive, that treats all skin types, so that stay the same. We want devices that are simple to use. So we think about the person that are operating the device, and a lot of time, companies that are scaling, they're hiring practitioners that are a little bit less experienced with devices. So we want things that are really easy to learn. Mm-hmm. Because eventually, and I just had this debate with a franchise, and they talked about that in their model, they're going to hire a lot of younger laser practitioners that have less experience. So when we talked about what devices you should bring, they said, we definitely do not want to bring a CO2 because it's too much heavy and dependent on the practitioner. We definitely don't want to bring, there was an ultrasound device, without mentioning the name, but a big brand, because we're afraid of people getting burned. So when we showed them that our laser hair removal, the Diago, has the presetting, and it's so dummy-proof or easy to use, mm-hmm. They were so happy to see that all you need to do at 90% of your treatment is just to choose the skin color. That's your first screen from 1 to 6. The second screen is to choose the hair color from, different hair colors from 1 to 4. And then the thickness of the follicles. So these are things that we are really considering when we bring a technology. It's not just something that will give you good result. Is it something that is easy to implement in the practice and easy to train on? So the Zaluso falls under that category as well. Our IPL on the Zaluso, some people say that it's pain-free. You just
Yes,
added
it's
it
the
to your
best.
office as well.
It's the best.
So, there's a lot of good IPLs out there, and most of them are using very similar physics, or all of them are using very similar wavelengths. One of the two unique features in our Zalusa platform is that we have an incredible cooling system that you can also control. You can change it from no cooling to cold, which is 32 Fahrenheit. That's like our most hottest temperature, which is extremely cold and comfortable. So the person that designed it thought about men and how men are not, don't have the same threshold for pain as women. So he built a really powerful cooling system. It goes up to 16 Fahrenheit, which is extremely cold and comfortable. So our IPL is pain-free. So for your question, things that have changed, we changed our model not just to focus on portability, but to still continue and focus on profitability for practices, pain-free technologies, no consumables, the things that are popular and high demand. And these are some of the changes that we've done. I can go on and on, but it's so fun, like I said, to own a company, get feedback, and change our model or offering based on what the business owners and the patients are really looking for.
And I think another thing to add, and full disclosure, a lot of the people that know that listen to my show is I am one of the directors at XOD. So I think another big thing for our customers is that the rent to own option and the finance options that we have. We have such great finance partners, which I find that most equipment companies don't have that flexibility. And a lot of people can't do these big lasers right up front if they're newer, or if they're injectors trying to get into the more of the aesthetics ring. They don't have the funds to, or the time in business to get approved. I think that what you've done is a really great job of aligning awesome finance partners, because that's also really big, is to make it affordable and comfortable and make it understandable. A lot of these devices that are coming out, a big name that we talk about, everyone is obsessed with, like the Cyton BBL Moxie. Everyone's obsessed with it. But it's a very big, expensive piece of equipment. And that's a big loan to have if that's your first kind of stepping into the industry. I think that we offer devices that deliver the same, if not better results, but you're not paying $350,000. So I don't think it's always about, everyone goes for like the brand name right away. I think that you've done a really great job at bringing in technology that gives the same, if not the better results, but doesn't have that price tag that makes people nervous to get into these devices.
So thank you for pointing that out. And we are so blessed to have you in our team.
Thank you.
I think that one of the things that we discovered is that the people that will be the extension of our company and the face of our company, we want to bring unique people that bring a lot of value. And obviously working with a laser practitioner that has their own businesses, also has an incredible family.
Thank you.
You bring so much more color to each conversation and so much more depth as someone that has bought lasers, investing in equipment, using it yourself, that I feel like this is how it should be done, that you have skin in the game, you understand what the patients or the business owners are going through. So it's a blessing to have you in our New England team and in general in the company. And you're absolutely right. One of the things that you can see is that the market is in a slowdown. I'm not just talking about aesthetics. There's a lot of things, geopolitics, that are happening in the world, from wars and all of these things eventually affect the stock market and
gas prices,
pricing, and the flights are expensive. And when people are worried, and that's what the news are doing, they're trying to sell you the advertisement. So they are going to try to scare you with information and bombard you with information. Eventually, it affects the decisions of the buyers, if it's the patients, and how they spend money, and the business owners and how they think about scaling the practice. Yeah. So you hit the nail in the head. In a saturated market, if you strip down the name of these brands and these technologies, we realize that a lot of them are using similar physics. And most of the big companies are using what we love to call gold standard wavelengths. Right? You mentioned Cyton. We can talk about Cynosure, Cutera. Yeah. They are all wonderful device manufacturers or medical device manufacturers. But if you look at their FDA approvals, 99% of them are using very similar type of approval, and they're using similar wavelengths. So when we started our company, we wanted to focus on modalities that are out there, that are proven, that are in high demand. And we realized that if you have a business model where the device is more accessible to the business owners, and you don't have consumables, and it's pain-free, then it's such an easier sell for your patient.
Absolutely.
And it's more accessible for the patient. And this is what we want to offer. This is what we are offering at XOD that we are proud of. We're offering a platform that allows business owners to add a lot of devices without breaking their bank. One of the newest models that we offer is the rent-to-own or subscription model, which has no interest as long as you get approved. So there's a process that we go through. It's actually quite easy. And some of our devices, like the Breeze and the WannaTouch, are under that subscription or rent-to-own, which means you don't have to take a loan. Nobody's touching your personal credit. And you can rent it for a period of time, let's say 6 or 12 months. And we give you a period of time, a grace period, that if you decide to invest and buy the device after 6 or 12 months, everything that you paid for will go towards the purchase. And what we realize in the industry, there's so many devices that are coming out every month, every quarter, and the problem is not the amount of technologies that are out there. What we're trying to innovate is the financial models. Can we bring something that a business owner, it doesn't matter if they're starting or if they're a multi-location and they want to scale fast and they want to keep more cash to themselves, can we help them getting these type of quality devices with a new model that doesn't break their bank? So that's something that we're offering. It's not on our website yet, but it's more based on, case by case, and wherever we can help, we love offering, and we know that it's extremely helpful.
I think that's definitely a huge point. And I also think that the industry itself is very device heavy. You go into these places and these patients expect pain with whatever service that they get. And I think another huge bonus of XOD and is really the experience that they have from the second they walk in. Whether they're getting the Breeze or the WandaTouch, it's an experience. It's not device heavy. They're going to enjoy the treatment. And it makes it better, I think, as a practice owner. It makes it better for my relationship with the patient because they're getting results and it's comfortable. So they're completing their packages that they're coming in. I think a big hit in the industry was, radio frequency microneedling. Everyone was raving about it. I bought one. I had one. I actually bought it from Lee. And it was great, but it was the pain that was associated.
Right.
So we weren't getting, people would do one and say, you know what, all the Pronox and numbing cream in the world, I'm really don't want to continue to do this. And after reading more about the data and the physics behind it and how it's working, now the FDA issued that warning. The WandaTouch fits so nicely with that monopolar radio frequency that is actually comfortable.
Right.
And I think that is where truly another huge selling point of XOD systems, because it's not just another device in your office that's going to be painful, but they're going to get good results.
Right.
It's a device where you're getting a treatment, you're enjoying the treatment, so you want to come back for more. It makes that patient that comes in for a series of whatever many treatments want to come back and maybe do another series where maybe they wouldn't have wanted to do that with something like radio frequency microneedling or a heavier device.
So I completely agree on a few points. So first of all, today the consumer is smarter and they have higher expectations, higher demand. They want things on the spot.
Absolutely.
So what we have in our portfolio, like the Breeze and the WandaTouch, these are devices that if the patient's, getting multiple treatments, they're going to see excellent results. But these are such an easy add-ons to your services that you already offer that will give them that extra edge. So I'll give you an example. The Breeze is one of our, my obsession specifically. We manufacture it in Israel. We did the whole R&D. And we realized that if you already have a CO2, if you have an erbium, and if you have a radio frequency, and most practices that are respectful have one of these modalities, if it's a microneedling RF, if it's a CO2 laser or an erbium, anything that uses heat and is targeting the water in the skin, by adding a small, a short 10-minute service with the Breeze, you're hydrating the dermis, you can go really deep, you're detoxifying the skin, and that little extra touch gives so much more clinical benefit, healing benefits they have less downtime, they're enjoying a better experience, they go home looking glowing, and we get every week new text messages from heavy users of lasers that said, we listened to your advice, and not my advice, our clinical director and our trainer's advice, and we did the breeze for prepping them, and they see such a big benefit. And these are the little things that helps you differentiate yourself from other practices that might have similar system like you across the street. You know, we have a small team and the market is not saturated with our devices. So if you're one of an early adapter, you can create a huge impact on the experience that you're offering, the results, the longevity of these results, but also your ROI, right? If you can do something and you're adding another element to your service and charging another $100 and it only costs you $3 to $5, it adds so much more to your profits, especially when patients afterwards will tell you, I really enjoyed that breeze. I know that you're offering a full facial. Can I just book the treatment if it's a week or 2 weeks after your treatment? So that's about, you know, creating devices and bringing devices that can be great by themselves, but also an easy add-on. And everything is about experience. You know, us as human, we remember good experiences, right? You might think that you have the best kitchen in town. If let's say that your business is a restaurant and you just opened an Italian restaurant. You know how many Italian restaurants are here in New England? Tons of them. Why would one person will come back to the same restaurant? Is it because of the food and how it's cooked perfectly? Or is it because of the experience? And what we realize is this: to become a successful business owner, whatever business it is, you need to create a memorable, great experience. If it's from the way that you picked up the phone, right? And somebody's calling to book your whatever facial or injectable treatment, from the moment that how you are welcoming someone through the door, the atmosphere, the music. I am in love of the way that you set up your room when there's nice smell, the sheets are always ready, everything looks super clean, but there's such nice element of even music. And when you go to some medical offices, it feels so cold. And it's just a different experience to get a treatment. We all know what music does to our body, that vibration, especially something that is subtle and soft, or maybe something that they can choose themselves. It's just create a different experience. And those little things is what people are remembering. And that's what wants them to want to book a treatment. That's what they remember. That's how they refer people to you or give you a good review. And that's what we look at when we look at the devices. And the One Touch, it's by far the best experience, skin tightening treatment that, you know, a lot of people thought, and it was true before. If you look 20 years ago, where CO2 started to become more heavily popular as the gold standard for skin resurfacing, everybody knew that if you want great skin, you got to do a fully ablative treatment with 3 to 4 weeks downtime. Sometimes, you know, same thing as facelift were really aggressive before. But today, like you said, if you're prepping the customers, if you're giving them Pronox, if you're doing the right thing, you create a little bit better experience and less of a downtime. And today, a lot of these big companies are shifting, instead of CO2, to offer an erbium treatment, which is safer, similar to what we have, a 2940 nanometer. And you can do fully ablative or fractional laser. But we realized that it's more effective than CO2 in the way that it's vaporizing the tissues faster with less amount of heat. And it's more controllable. There's less downtime. So that is a huge service or technology that we offer, an erbium laser with fully ablative is fractionated. And the One Touch is just mind-blowing. You know, and I speak with physicians that have used these microneedling RF devices or other modalities, or, you know, thermage, wool therapy, whatever, these really popular modalities out there. And in their mind, they feel like if you're not going through pain, it means that something is not really happening. And we love to drop the mic and we show them how they want to touch with an enjoyable experience, as long as there's consistency from the patient. If they understand that they need the multiple services, they get crazy good results. So it's really fun kind of to see how a device that people weren't sure about, or even the Diago, you know, when we sell it to a practice and the business owner is trying it, they're like, this is painless. Is it really working? And they get the most fabulous. I mean, I just heard a live conversation.
I literally just had a phone call when we were setting up of a client that had got laser hair removal somewhere else, but needed to do a lot of touch up. She had a lot of regrowth. And she said to me, Alexis, I'm going away. Am I going to have, is this going to be gone? And, you never can guarantee, right? You never want to say, yes, you're going to be hairless by this time, because you never really know. We did one treatment, and the reduction was so unbelievable. When she called me, she goes, I can't believe it. I didn't shave my armpits once when we went in Mexico. I go, that's amazing. It's
How
not
fun is
like,
to get these feedback?
it's the best. And it's not like I think it's different for me because I run these systems on patients. So I'm hearing the good results from them, and it just makes me feel better. I mean, I've been in the sales game forever, as long as you have. And sometimes you sell something that's in a portfolio and maybe you don't love it. Maybe the data isn't there for you. You don't see the return, but you have to sell it, right? It's part of your job, and you try not to maybe push that one. I don't have that feeling with the XOD product line, because every device that we have, I own, and we have amazing results with all of it. It's not like I'm not seeing it firsthand. So I feel comfortable recommending this to owners. And the clients speak for itself. Like I literally could put my phone on the TV and show you guys all the text messages that I get that are like, I'm hairless, it's treatment 3. I'm like,
So
that's not normal.
this is
That's
such a good
awesome.
feedback. And, you're absolutely right. I came before I started XOD. I was working at another company that you got, 4 or 5 systems from us.
Yeah.
And when I joined that company, they had 11 different devices. So in my mind, I thought to myself, wow, I have an amazing portfolio. We can sell anything, any service to anyone, any device. But then when we looked at the data, after a year, we realized there were only 3 devices that we sold the most, which is radio frequency, a laser platform, and a device for pigment and tattoo removal, all right, a Pico technology, which became really popular. But my point is, you don't need a lot. And when we started XOD, I told myself, and that was an agreement between me and my 2 partners, we cannot fail on the products that we bring. We cannot have a device that is just okay. If it's not perfect to as much as we can, if it's in the price, if it's in the results, in the safety, then I don't want it, because we don't have the luxury to work with customers. If you think about it, this industry is already saturated.
Oh.
The business owners already got burned by so many companies. They are so, they're questioning everything, which they should.
I agree.
Right? These devices are big investments. It's their reputation eventually when they bring something. And I just got off the phone call from a franchise, and they bought a multi-platform from a really big company, one of the top 3 largest device companies. They manufacture it in Israel. And they told us, we bought one platform. They told me, we're not happy with the customer service. We're not getting the results. And when we're calling to complain, nobody picks up the phone, right? The nice thing about, again, the benefit of working with a smaller company is that you're one phone call away from the people that are building it, one phone call away from the head of training, head of repairs. So we're in this together with you, and your success is eventually our success. And we cannot afford to have a failure technology, so we're extremely picky. And, I'm so grateful that from being a buyer, we became friends, to you decided to take another leap of faith and add more devices to your practice. And now that you can represent us in New England, I can share so many stories about, we have one customer that her name. I wouldn't mention her name on this podcast, but she came to us through a referral. She's out of Florida. She bought 2 devices from us over the phone without even trying them. She took a leap of faith based on the referral that she got and everything that we promised her from warranty for training. And her experience wasn't the best at the beginning because she actually burned herself. She felt like she was jumping too early on the higher settings instead of going with the guidelines. And we were able to work with her, correct the experience to a point that she started to get unbelievable results.
Unbelievable results.
So at the beginning, she had the Zaluso and the Breeze. After 3 months, she decided to add the One Touch and then the Diago. So within 4 months, she bought all the 4 platforms. And then a few months ago, she reached out to buy another Breeze and One Touch. And now she actually invested in our company. So from a referral to a customer to someone that didn't have the best experience because, again, she wanted to jump too fast and too aggressive setting without understanding it. this means the world to us, that we can take, again, a friend, a colleague, to become someone that uses our devices and now work with us, send us referrals. This is something that makes us feel good about what we do and sleep better at night versus just running after quotas, feeling pressured by these big companies that are pushing you to do things that you're not comfortable with and doing things that are, shady, which is...
Yeah, that's a lot. This industry has a lot. And I feel that a lot of these owners, including myself, have been burnt.
Yeah.
I mean, I was burnt by, I had bought some devices from Lee and he had left the company, but they broke. And, what are you supposed to do? Like, there was no one to talk to. No one cared. No one wanted to work with me. But when I picked up the phone and called Lee and said, hey, like, I'm in a bad position. Like, what do I do? He was at my door within 25 minutes. I mean, it really goes to show that how much you care about the people that you work with. And I think that's so important with people today because it's just, there are so many reps and everyone is, and what kills me too is a lot of these reps aren't doing the treatments. So the fact that myself, I run this equipment, our friend down in Florida, she runs this equipment every day. Having valuable people like that can just say, from experience, I've used them and this is how we feel. I think that is a huge bonus that not many other companies have because they're just hiring any rep that had a good year and they're transferring to a different company and, and you don't have that, how to get rid of your laser rep is to buy their laser.
Right.
We don't have that relationship with our clients. And for me, a really cool project we're working on, XOD is potentially launching this other cool product. I'm not going to get too much into it. But Lee actually sent me what products it could be and a couple different options and the data on everything. And for me, being in this industry so long, I've never had the experience of being part of like that process.
Right.
And I feel so respected to be part of that. So I think that the company itself is so cool being so small that we all kind of work together on these projects to deliver the best results to these clients. So I think that we have a really cool team. Like I love it.
We do, and I'll take it a step further. It's not the size of the company that matters of, the how you feel and the importance of us giving you a voice as a, ambassador, as a director, or as a customer. It all comes down to decisions. And what does the business owners, how do they see themselves? And eventually, my partner Ron loves to say, these tools, we're building them for you. We're building them for the practitioner to use. If we're not going to ask feedback, we're just going to assume that we know everything. And that's the biggest mistake that I see with all these big device companies. They're somewhere in Europe, they're somewhere in Israel, they're building a device, and what they think about is, how can we sell an aggressive treatment with the fastest result, the most aggressive results? They don't think about the consumer so much. How can we add more things so the business owners will buy more consumables from us? And how do we, some companies are now, you have to pay for your pulses as well.
That's crazy.
And how do we make the device look extremely large and looks more sophisticated where, our Breeze, for example, when we built it, we thought about durability, we thought about functionality, we thought about comfort,
Size.
we thought about size, and we told ourselves, what's going to happen if we're going to add an LED screen, right? Where you can choose whatever and start playing. You don't need it. You need knowledge on products. You need to understand your patients. You need to understand how to create the right, treatment plan or facial plan. And that's what you need. So we took out the LED because I've seen other facial modalities that have tons of service problems. And it's because the companies, they don't think about the function of the treatment, the ease of use, or how it feels. They think about, how can we make this technology look like it's worth, $50, $60, $100,000? And they're adding things that are not necessary for the treatment. And that's the luxury. Look at the WannaTouch. It's not a sexy device. No, it's not a pretty device.
That was my first thing I said too. I go, we need to make it sexy.
And hopefully we are going to bring new models that look a little bit nicer. But we thought at the beginning, it needs to work. It needs to be powerful to target, things like fat reduction. So we need enough power. It needs to be functional. It needs to be easy to use. And we thought about we don't want a lot of space. So if you look at other devices, specifically microneedling RF, let's be honest with microneedling RF or the monopole RF that you're hearing about. Look at these big companies. If you look at their device and if you realize that, hey, it's actually only this size, but they put it on a big stand and they make it look big so you think it's worth, $150,000 or whatever price they tell you, $100,000. And we said to ourselves, it's not really functional in an office. So we made our One-Touch portable with a military-grade suitcase in case you want to travel with it. So these are the things that are more critical for us. Is it functional for the practitioner? Is it enjoyable for the patient? And if we check those boxes, we do our best to make it look as good as we can. But first, we want to put them on the market, and we can always, redesign them if needed.
I also like too is with the One-Touch, its initial indications in Europe were not for aesthetics. It was for pain management.
Right.
And PT and doing all of these other things and physical therapy. So like I love that because I think that a lot of these companies that come out with these devices, it's so focused on aesthetic, right? And it lacks a lot of good data because they don't have it, right? They don't want to spend the money on it. They kind of piggyback off another study. I think that the One-Touch has so much data in the PT space in Europe. And then when they realized the results they were getting, let's just use like above the knee for an example. And then they realized, wow, that skin's getting tight. Now let's do aesthetic indications. I think that having that data is so amazing because now you're changing the game. Now you're in the wellness and longevity arena. And this new systemic mode that we've really been pushing, I think that's also a whole different market than, just doing treatments for whether it's laxity or fat reduction. Now you're healing people with healing frequencies that have been around for decades, but we're the only ones that have it. It's not, you can't compare this to, the new rave is like Zerf is the big thing now. And, there is no comparison because they're just different. Right. Beasts.
So I think that, the nice thing about our company, one of the nice thing about our company, that each one of the devices that we bring, there's a specific purpose of why do we bring it, but it has a unique story on its own. So since this is not live, if you don't mind, I can share really briefly the story of each device.
Let's do it.
Yes? Okay. So let's start with the One-Touch, right? So it's using a 448 kilohertz. That is the frequency, and it's a monopolar RF. So what is monopolar RF? Means that we need to put a grounding pad, and wherever you're placing your electrode, or if you're massaging it with your hands, the energy is traveling between the electrode to the grounding pad, okay? Versus bipolar RF, and all microneedling RF devices, or 99% of them are bipolar. It means that the energy is only traveling between the electrodes, so it's more superficial. Now monopolar RF exists within, for example, is the Zerf that you mentioned is a monopolar RF. It's made in South Korea. Cynosure became the distributor of it. If you look at FDA and what they're exactly claiming and using, it's the Thermage. If you're familiar with the Thermage, monopolar, same frequency. I think it's 2.5 megahertz to 6.78. They just box it differently. They call it differently, and they made it
180,000.
I won't mention the prices, but Cynosure.
I don't know, but I know what you're saying.
Cynosure, Lutronics are, they have their model, which is, I think, not a little bit, but overpriced with consumables. Same thing with the Cortesa Everest, right? It's the same frequency, same idea, very sexy device. I believe it's made out of Europe, and Cortesa are the distributor, but it's very similar. The One-Touch is a completely different story. It came from the sports medicine world and the physical therapy. And we're using electrodes that are helping with healing, with inflammation, with recovery. And over a decade ago, we wanted to make this device even more unique and create a delivery mechanism where a practitioner can deliver energy through a massage. So that's where it came from. And that's the beauty of this device, that you can hook yourself to the device as a laser practitioner or the nurse that offers this, massage an area, and the energy is coming out of your hands. This creates a one-of-a-kind experience, which really nobody in the US has it, which is unbelievable. So if you didn't have a chance yet to try it, call Alexis or call any one of our customer. You can see a lot of our ambassadors on our website and our KOLs, and that's how you know like which physician has the One Touch near you. But anyway, it's an unbelievable experience and it's one of a kind. And that's some of the story of the One Touch. And the Breeze, for example, is a device that originally was built for wound therapy, for scar revision, for cleaning tissues with saline and pressurized jet technology and micro droplet technology for hospital use. And then we realized, doctors and practitioners were using it in hospital to treat scars. They started infusing vitamin C, hyaluronic acid. Then we realized there was a study that shows that our technology was able to infuse products into the dermis. So we brought it to the aesthetic world. So that is the history of the Breeze. It's needle-free, it's touchless, it's painless, and it creates magic for a variety of skin condition. It has a cryo effect, which is great for depuffing the skin, detoxifying, and we can treat it as a facial treatment for needleless hair restoration. We have so many protocols, pre-injectable, pre-lasers. It's a class 1 device, a must in every office. But again, the history comes from hospital use. And then the Diago is actually made in Europe. And the company that helped us develop the Diago were the number 1 supplier of the light shear, which is a luminous diode laser, one of the most popular laser hair removal in the world. And they were the distributor of this device in Europe. But after a few years selling a lot of these diode lasers, they start breaking. So they wanted to create a device that doesn't break as often. And then they realized, well, in Europe, a lot of people are traveling between locations and they want to share a device. Why don't we make a mobile one? So they made a mobile version for the Lightyear. But we added a component which is called the V-cell system. So we added one feature that is unique to our Diago that comes from the semiconducting world. And it's a feature that allows us to distribute the energy more efficiently than any other diode or IPL on the market. And we have videos that really shows our Diago versus other diodes. And you can see that it's distributing the light in a more effective and in a precise way versus scattering, which creates better results, more comfort, less risk of burns. So that is a huge component that makes this Diago so unique. But that little feature that we added to the handpiece, that V-cell, and the fact that we can deliver the energy more efficiently, allowed us to create a device that is portable, that doesn't need a really large power source or doesn't need a really large water tank. We use water inside of the device to cool the handpiece as well. And it gets to...
that cooling is unbelievable.
The cooling is unbelievable. It's -9 °C. I think it's 18 Fahrenheit, which is extremely comfortable and painless. So that's the story of the Diago. Again, we took one technology, we made it better and smaller and more comfortable, and it's literally pain-free. And the last device is our Zeluso, which also has a beautiful story, so I'm just going to share it. The founder of the company, his name is Mario. The Zeluso is handmade in Italy. Mario has been in lasers for 30 years. He brought Luminous to Europe and Italy. He was the head of sales for Luminous. And after a decade, a large company out of Italy called Quanta, which are actually a government-endorsed company out of Italy, they took him to be the VP of international sales. So, for example, Cartessa are selling Quanta devices. Quantas are very high-quality lasers out of Italy. And he was selling lasers and laser platforms all over the world, in the Asian market, in the US market. And then almost a decade ago, he saw a small factory in Italy that are specializing in optics. And he told his wife, I want to buy this factory because they're doing such an amazing job with their engineers. And I want to create the most versatile platform. And he took all his knowledge selling, and distributing lasers at a high level all over the world, and working with such great laser platform like the M22 by Luminous or the Stellar and the Quanta lasers. And he said, I'm going to create something that is extremely versatile. There's 21 independent handpieces and different wavelengths on this Zeluso, which is unreal. And it's gold standard. It's simple to use. There's no consumables. But again, the guy that invented it had a vision of creating a platform using all his knowledge from selling really high-end lasers and making something that is a lifetime investment. That if you buy the Zaluso, you would never have to buy any other lasers because you can just add other attachments. And it has all these wonderful wavelengths that we talked about. Long pulse YAG 1064 to treat spider veins or cherry angiomas. We have 14 different IPLs with different sizes, and different spot sizes with cooling, with less cooling to treat your browns and reds. And we have a specific technology called SMT, which is sub-millisecond. And we have your diode for laser hair removal, Q switch for tattoo removal and melasma treatment, your Erbium 2940 with 4 lenses, and a 1540 fractionated Erbium glass with no consumables, and it's paint-free. So it's extremely versatile. You can start with 2 wavelengths. Usually the nice thing about X2D is that we don't push everything to you like some other companies. We go by what is important for you as a clinician, as a business owner, what is your budget, and we customize the platform based on your immediate needs and vision. And again, you can start with 1 or 2 or 3 handpieces, and as your company grows and there's high demand, you can always add more attachments. So this is some of the history of our 4 devices.
And I think, like we did an analogy earlier about restaurants, I think the same way that restaurants that are fine dining restaurants have a very small menu.
Yes.
You know, they excel at those things. I think XOD has done that with its portfolio. It's a small portfolio of devices. Now, maybe we add more in the future. Great, sure, we love that. But it has to be perfect, and it has to fit the mold that, you know, you've really built. And I think that's really important for people because, you know, all these companies, like we said, they have all these different devices, and none of them have a story. Right. You know, let's be real. A lot of these devices that are being sold, you probably can find on Alibaba. Like, they're just devices that have been out. They change the FDA, they change how it looks, they rename it, and it's the same device. Right. I think we've brought devices from Europe, from Israel that are ours. You know, they're devices from all over the world, but that work, that have data, that make sense, and you're not going to get some, you know, plastic piece of junk. You know, you're going to get something that's durable and that lasts.
Absolutely. And actually, I want to ask you, you know, you are such a heavy user of devices as a laser practitioner, as a med owner, and somebody that sold devices. You work with some large companies, you know, like BTL, Hydrofacial, very reputable companies. And you have a very specific, you know, you're very picky. As you can see on this beautiful studio, with your staff, with your offerings. What was, you know, when you bought the Zaluso versus the other platform that you had before, where do you see the biggest impact from, you know, the feedback that you're getting from your customers?
Truly, it's the versatility of the Zaluso, and not just the fact that it has all the different hand pieces, because my other devices had the different hand pieces as well. But the versatility comes from the settings, because a lot of the other device I had, like, it's not a secret, I had the Roar Spectrum. It bases their IPL on filters. And upon doing more research on that, you know, you're really not getting the results that you're looking for with the filter. You know, it needs to be a separate handpiece or a completely separate setting. The other thing that I really liked about the Zaluso is the handpiece itself and the fact that the glass is flat. On other devices, they're raised. You need to use a lot of gel. You need to make sure it has
the spot size. The crystal is flat.
Yeah, the crystal is flat versus like on the Spectrum, it's a piece that you put on. It's a raised rectangular piece that needs to sit on the skin perfectly flat. And if it's not, you need to, you know, use
tons of
tongue depressors and gel, and it's a whole process, right? And it's very messy. I find that, you know, the Zaluso has really an easy handpiece to use. I also really like the buttons. I know you can use a foot pedal, but there's 2 separate buttons on the handpiece. So however...
Like the triggers.
It makes it easier to use. But the really awesome thing that I loved is I was actually able to talk to Mario and go over settings. And his settings for IPL is unlike any other device I have ever worked with. Now, people can say, well, Alexis, can you take those, you know, maybe it's the same wavelength. Can you use those settings on another device? And no, you can't, because you don't exactly know what you're getting with the other devices, basing it with filters. This is studied data protocols that work. And the stacking effect that the Zoluso has is unbelievable. I really love the 1540 too. I think it is
Nice.
the lunchtime, gives you that nice peel. Maybe you be a little bit pink, not too pink, but you're going to get the results. I am not a CO2 girly. Maybe I'm the only esthetician and like a person. Granted, I don't do them. Nurses have to do them. I understand that. But in general, it's not a treatment that I would want in my practice for my nurses to run because it's just too much downtime. I don't think that's what patients want. I think that having the 2940 erbium is so nice, especially if you stack them. And I don't think the way that I use the devices and the way that I coach offices to buy these devices is stacking these treatments. And the training with the Zoluso, when you're stacking, you know, an IPL with an erbium or a 1540, and how, you know, Amy Medeiros, our clinical director, who's unbelievable, has really
The best of the best. We love you, Amy.
She actually just called me, funny enough, while we're sitting here. She's really taken these protocols from Italy that we have and like really just transformed them.
I'm going to say something that is so unique about Amy that she will never admit it because she's, you know, she's humble.
She is. But she's
like you should be.
unbelievable.
She's a very sweet person. I know her since I started in lasers almost a decade ago. And she has so much knowledge, you know, and I've met a lot of trainers in our industry. And sometimes companies will hire a trainer without actually either the right certification or without a lot of knowledge treating patients. And the nice thing about Amy that she's been doing this for 25 years, started as in the dermatology world. And she's actually a registered nurse, but she loves aesthetics so much that she went ahead, got her license, her aesthetic license, which is completely, you know, you learn about skin, you learn about
It's
product.
completely different.
She did, I think, a $900 or $1,200 course at Catherine Heights, which is a very famous aesthetic institute. I think you got your license from there.
That's where I went to.
Here in New England. So it's so nice to work with a clinical director that wear those different hats, from an esthetician to a laser technician to an injectable, and understand how to structure the training for all the variety of practices that we work with. And she worked with some really big companies like InMode. She was their trainer for 7 years, and she did study for Sinusource and Electronics on their Ultra MD and Genius, which are wonderful devices. So she has so much background, and to see her passionate working and training for us means the world to us. You know, full transparency, a lot of times when the factory and the engineers are building these machines, they're giving you their safest setting and their conservative setting as much as they understand their device. But eventually, when you bring it to the field, the settings can look different, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And what we have done since we launched the Zoluso, and Amy took it upon herself, which is unbelievable. We had phone calls with the people that built it in Italy. And then we had Zooms with a dermatologist from Italy that has been using it for almost 15 years. And then we took his settings and we tried it. And then we had another Zoom with a very famous dermatologist out of Mexico he's a KOL for some really big companies, and got his settings. And then we did another Zoom with a dermatologist, with Dr. Bertha Baum. She's a KOL for our company, a very famous dermatologist.
One of the sweetest physicians I think I have ever met in my career.
And we reviewed the settings with her, and she invested on the Zoluso, and she tested it. And the amount of work that we have done, and we spoke with our offices that are using it, to give the perfect setting to our practitioners. We did a lot of homework to give you not just what we feel is like the conservative setting that you get from the people that build it, but really the most up-to-date, evaluating with different physicians. So it's just so fun for us as a company to ask a lot of questions, because we know that we should do things better and we should ask questions.
But it goes back to safety, because
Yes.
if this device didn't have the safety on it, you wouldn't be able to do the settings the way that we're able to do them.
Right.
And the passes that I have never in my career done like multiple, and I'm talking like not just two, passes of IPL
4 to 6
in one
sometime-
treatment.
yeah.
You know, you do one and you really don't play with it that much, because IPL is one of those things where like if it goes bad, it goes really bad, you know? So I think that it makes it safer. Now in the state of Massachusetts, estheticians can run IPLs, and I think that the Zoluso makes it comfortable for the newer esthetician to run an IPL and feel confident
Right.
that they're not going to burn somebody.
Full disclosure, that's probably with the SMT technology, the sub-millisecond.
That is my favorite handpiece on the Zaluso. I lied. I actually
So it's
like
a
all
setting
of them.
on our one of our IPLs that can treat browns and reds.
Mm-hmm.
But a sub-millisecond, it's essentially a really fast delivery of energy at a fraction, of a timing, like extremely fast, without bulk heating. So it
Yes.
allows you to address, vascularity in ways that other devices can't, and that's why it's extremely comfortable. Some people say it's pain-free, but that's why you can do so many passes and start like either very deep and go superficially, or vice versa. But yes, it's a specific technology on IPL that makes it really extraordinary, safe, comfortable, with beautiful results from your first session.
And also too is the settings, like how it's set up. So if you want dark pigment, if you want light pigment, if you're doing vascular, if you're doing rosacea, if you're doing melasma, there are presets on there. Now, obviously, their settings and the training, like we said, is very specific to what you're doing, but at least it has those settings on there as a reference guide. I think that especially a lot of us that run these devices all of the time, there's no way you can remember all of the settings, and everyone should be charting and doing all that too. But it is nice to have that on the screen to be like, oh yeah, this is what I do. You know what? I am going to bump this up over here. Let me refer to my notes I did with Amy, or the PowerPoint Amy gave me. And, it really makes it easy to get good results. And I think that's what these companies, that's where we excel, and everyone else should probably follow, is training people to get good results and not training people just to pump them out. I feel like it's like a pump out the training, dump them, maybe they'll be okay, and we don't check on them. I think where we also excel is Amy is so great at keeping up with these people, making sure they're getting good results. How are they running the device? What is happening? So that I prefer the boutique, small, like atmosphere that we have at XOD. So as much as I want us to grow and get huge and do great things, I think that keeping our core values is something huge to us.
For me, the size doesn't matter, the size of your team. It's about the quality. And that is a mission for us, is to keep the quality control. We're not greedy. Obviously, everybody wants to be successful. But, coming from a perspective of someone that had a consulting company to being a sales director, the person that sells lasers for med spas, me and my team always kept our values, and thank you for sharing some of your stories. Even when I left another company, and I left 2 companies before I joined, and I started my own company, I was always available. And I realized, these people believed in me. They invested a lot of money, and I don't care if it's $10,000, $50,000, $300,000. The price is not important. I gave them my word that I'll be available. Then let's work extra hard to be available. And eventually, these are medical devices, and we work with medical professionals. And being available for them when the machine breaks or when they have clinical questions, it's such a relief, and it's something that we are proud of. So I don't care what size of company we are, and I've seen it with other companies. When we grew, and I was working for with other teams, we grew and they got less of a customer service, and that's why.
Absolutely.
And eventually it came back to me because I was the representative. So that's what I said. We're going to start a company where we treat everyone as human. I don't care the size of your business, the size of your med spa, or how much money you're spending with us. We're going to be as available as possible. And people feel it, So thank you so much, like I said, for pointing this out. And everybody that is joining XOD as providers and are buying and investing in us, we have our word to continue and support you with as much as meaningful customer service, training support, whatever we can to make sure that you're happy and successful or growing with us. I tell every business owner that wants to buy a device from us, I tell them on the spot, and it's true. I don't want you to buy a device. I want you to buy a dozen of devices.
Absolutely.
I want you to crush it. I want you to crush your competitors. I want you, if you're buying 1 or 2 devices, we're going to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that you're enjoying this journey, that you feel like you did your right decision, that you're going to send us a referral. Even if you're not buying, we do our best to respect everyone and to tell them, hey, if you know any other practitioners that wants some type of equipment, please consider us. Let them speak with us, because we want to grow organically by doing the right
Absolutely.
thing, by doing the right job, by onboarding properly, by making sure that our customers are successful. And, referrals is a big part of our business. So it's a pleasure to have a company and to hold yourself accountable. And we bust our butts, around the clock. My wife knows it. My partner's wife knows it. Whatever it takes to make sure that our customers are happy and successful. This is our philosophy. The customer is 99.9% of the time right, but it doesn't matter. Even if they're not right, we're going to try to do the right thing by them in order to keep them happy and maintain the relationship with them.
Well, I'm so happy you came, but we're actually going to do something a little bit different. So today we're going to conclude this episode, but we're actually going to come back. We're going to do a whole series with Lee going over comparisons of technologies, and we're going to do like a laser lessons in lasers. I think it's going to be really good. I think that a lot of people don't understand these technologies, and it's not just like a sales pitch to sell you XOD. It's for you to understand how these lasers work. When you understand them, then you understand how to purchase correctly. So I'm so excited. We're going to have you back next week, and we're going to do, lately with lasers. It's going to be
anytime
next
you
week.
want. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And congrats on all the success. Looking forward for the next episode. Thank you so much.
Awesome.